Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to connect with you, Emily. I literally first heard about you about 2 weeks ago. And right away, I went to your account and I messaged you the other day, but I called my mom and we were just cracking up for a solid hour, just going through like all of your videos because we were like, this is us, like, especially the Thanksgiving one that you made. But you're just like, your content resonates with us both, and we're huge fans of you and Jason and your work and everything you're putting out there. So I'm really excited to just chat with you today about your new book and about the crunchy lifestyle and just, all things health and wellness.
Cool. Yeah. I'm a little intimidated. I feel like you might be the first health and wellness podcast I've been on.
Ooh.
I've been on like lots of homeschooling ones, which I feel very confident to talk about. Ginny Urich, 1,000 Hours Outside. Like I feel really good about that. The health and wellness front. I mean, I do my best, but I'm also not like super studied. I'm definitely someone that's like, oh, drink lemon water with a pinch of salt. Okay, like I'll do that. That sounds great. I don't know.
Honestly, Emily, we're on the same wavelength. And I think you had mentioned too at one point in one of your messages, like you're self-taught, right? And in your books too, like you're not afraid to say that. I'm the same exact way. No medical background. I actually went to college studying economics and finance. But I started WellnStrong. I don't know how much you were able to check into my platform, but I started WellnStrong back in 2020, started off as a wellness blog, got a lot of integrative doctors to contribute content. My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. So she was really the reason why I started this platform. I was super passionate, and I still am super passionate about integrative oncology. But I started the podcast last May. So I'm still a newbie. I have about 43 episodes published so far. I've been able to speak with some really incredible people whom I've admired for so long in the health space. So if anything, it's just been fun for me to have the opportunity to sit down with people that I otherwise, never would have imagined speaking with.
Yeah.
But no, I'm the same way as you. And I think quite honestly, the brightest minds and the most intelligent people that I've learned from are the ones who are self-taught, right? The ones that don't necessarily have a medical degree. So I think you're brilliant. I did read your book. I couldn't agree more with everything that's in there. And yeah, I'm just super excited to share it with listeners.
Oh, thank you. That's super encouraging. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to be your first health and wellness one. But to kick things off, Emily,
Sorry.
so you're good. So I was chatting with my dad the other day too. He's always like, "Oh, who are you interviewing this week?" So I give him my little rundown. I was like, "Oh, this woman named Emily Morrow." So again, we go to your Instagram account. He was cracking up and he's like, "Wait," he's like, "But what does crunchy actually mean? Like what is that term?" And I had to pause and try to figure out like the best way to describe it to him. So I am curious, Emily, how do you define crunchy?
Anybody who is more natural minded, like seeking a more natural way of living. So I think it's sort of an umbrella term. It could mean somebody who likes to spend a lot of time outside, or it could be someone who's into homesteading. It could be someone who's into health and wellness. Like there are so many different sects of crunchy. And so my character in my videos is sort of like encompassing all of them. I can't say that I am a perfectly crunchy person. Like I aspire to be, but definitely have my shortcomings. But yeah, just someone seeking the most natural way of living.
I love that. Yeah, it was funny too. As he was going through the reels, he's like, "Wait, like, is she serious about this, or like, is she also mocking it?" And I was like, "No, I think it's a little bit of both, Dad." But like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's totally both. When people are like, is this real or is this satire? I'm like, yes. Yes.
Emily. It's the perfect combination. Honestly, it's the perfect combination. But you and your husband Jason have been doing this for a while. From my understanding, this referring to creating content. So, can you just share with us, like, how did this all start?
Sure. Jason is really into video editing. He is self-taught on editing video. He originally started out as a journalist, and that was sort of like his favorite way to share news was through video. And then that didn't last long because we lived in a really tiny town in Georgia. And I was like, we have got to do something else. I just wasn't really into the place we were living. And so we decided to move abroad and teach English in South Korea.
Wow.
And whenever we were over there, he just started a little YouTube channel so we could share about our adventures with our friends and family back home. We didn't
I
really
love
intend
that.
for it to take off or anything, but we did get 7,000 subscribers, which back then we thought we were like a big deal.
Yeah, I
So
mean, hey, 7,000 subscribers today is like still a lot too.
I know, honestly, it was really cool. And even sometimes, like when we were in South Korea, people would recognize us, like, hey, I watched your apartment video. You're the reason I'm over here. So it was
I love
cool.
that.
Yeah, that kind of spurred us on to continue creating content. And we kind of dabbled in comedy, but when I go back and watch our comedy content from back then, it is so bad. So bad. But you have to start somewhere, and we put
Yeah.
ourselves out there, and we thought it was funny at the time. So hey, uh yeah, it's pretty much been all Jason. He wanted to continue creating content, but at this stage in our life, like we had kids, settled down a little bit. He's like, what could we even make videos about? Because he just wanted to fuel that passion. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not interested. We used to, like, every time we made a video in South Korea, we would fight because he would be like directing me and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm at a tulip festival. Like, let me just enjoy the tulips. I don't want to be here making a video. So I was super reluctant to even say yes to him because I did not want to spend my days fighting. Like we had kind of moved
Yeah.
past it and I was done with the video content. Anyway, he has followed me in everything I wanted to do. He went to Korea 3 times. He sold
Wow.
everything we had to live in an RV. Like, I have all these big visions always, and he's always just gone along with it. And so he's like, Emily, just this once, could we please
Oh,
make fun of you? Like, you are so crazy. You are hilarious. Could we please make videos? So I said, fine. And I didn't think it would go anywhere. And I was pretty sure after like 15 videos, we would get tired of it because we didn't have any followers or anything. And then we would just give up. But by our 8th video, it went viral. And so, yeah, there was no quitting.
I
So
absolutely love that. Well, first of all, I don't think that your first videos were as horrible as you think they are. I think we're always more harsh on ourselves, right? So I'd love to go back and see some of your first videos. Have to do some digging. But
yeah. Oh, no, we did this
no.
series. We did this series called Scooter Patrol, and it was about like a husband who had amnesia, and he was a police officer in the States, but because he had amnesia, they sent him to Korea. I don't know, like we had this whole story, and yeah, it was just really bad. It was not feasible, believable. But so if you're interested,
we
you
all
can
we
look up
all
Scooter
started somewhere.
Patrol.
No, I love that. But honestly, I was thinking that too. I was like, where do they come up with all these brilliant ideas? Like, I mean, you could say there's only so much you could like milk of like being crunchy, but like there's just so much opportunity and there's so many different like lenses to approach it. So how do you guys come up with all of those ideas? Like, do you have dedicated like brainstorming sessions or is it more so just like you'll be doing your everyday routine and all of a sudden be like, oh, this would make a really funny content piece or
It's a little bit of both,
yeah.
honestly. A lot of times I'm doing something and I'm like, this is hilarious. What in the world? Or I'll see a video of someone else doing something like, I don't know if you've heard of the content creator Rose Uncharted.
No.
She's in the health and wellness arena, but she posted this video once about how we haven't correctly developed um well, we've like stopped ourselves from developing by not going through the stages of development when we were an infant. Like some people skip
Hmm.
crawling and stuff like that, and it affects your brain development. And she was doing
Interesting.
this very serious video about learning to crawl correctly so that she could get her like emotions in line and like just develop
Yeah.
everything appropriately, make her increase her brain plasticity.
Yeah.
And I like saw this video and I'm like,
And you were
this
like,
is
brilliant.
hilarious. This is so funny. Like she was totally dead serious, but it's funny. And there's so many things like that in the health and wellness world that are
So
like,
many.
what am I doing? I mean, like, I haven't done a video on this, but the whole like bum sunning thing, that's
Yeah.
hilarious. I
Yeah.
feel like my content is very family friendly, so I haven't,
Yeah.
gone there, but there are just so many things. People are drinking their urine.
I
That's
know.
funny.
I know.
Even if it is beneficial, it's funny. So, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
times I'm just like learning about how to live a healthier life. And then I'm like, it's so funny. So,
But it's so true. And like, especially now in the age of social media, like, there's just like the craziest of like regimens that people are doing. And I think a lot of
mm-hmm,
it is just because like the more extreme you are, right? Like that's what the algorithm likes. So people are just like putting these crazy, like not science backed claims out there and getting all these followers. But like the irony is, to your point, is there are all these like, it's just great work. It's like free content for you to just like use and create videos from. So I absolutely love that. But
I know. I sometimes worry like people are going to go through my who I'm following. And some of the people I'm following, I'm like legitimately following for quality content. But then there are a
right.
few that I'm like, this
I
is
know.
like a gold mine of ridiculousness. And I love it. And I have to applaud them for the constant search of the greatest,
Yeah.
most peak wellness. Like that's
Yeah.
great that they're trying to better themselves.
Yeah.
Some of it I cannot get behind. I have not consumed my own urine, and I'm not sure that I ever will.
Honestly, Emily, I would love to sit down with you and Jason and just like be part of that brainstorming session. Cause I mean, I've probably watched like 2/10 of all your video content, but I
hmm
mean, I have so many ideas like cold plunges and like
I
just
know.
extreme.
We really want to start cold plunging. We tried to do the whole shower cold plunge thing. It's
Yeah,
worse. It's
it
way
is.
worse because it's like dappled, and it
Yeah.
feels like shocking every time it hits you instead of just like the submersion.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about getting a cold plunge tub thing.
Ooh, you should
Um,
do it.
yeah. Do you have one?
The Morosco Forge ones. When I live in an apartment right now, so I can't really put it anywhere. But
Mm-hmm.
when I get a house one day, God willing, I'd love to have the Morosco Forge ones that are like sheer ice baths. But
Yeah.
I take cold showers. I haven't actually ever done like an ice bath, but to your point, I feel like it would be easier than a cold shower. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm treating
Mm-hmm.
myself. We'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully at one
Yeah.
point.
For sure.
Yeah.
And there is so many potential hilarious
So
videos
much.
there, for sure.
Yeah. I'm
Maybe,
excited to see
hey,
those.
what's the brand again?
Morosco Forge. You should reach out to them. Be like, we're
We should
making some
just both
content.
reach out. Like, could we get
Yeah,
a BOGO here or something?
yeah, exactly. I'll just come fly and we'll do it. We'll film content at your house. I love it. But Emily, so going back to being crunchy, right? It can be intimidating. And I feel like many people today are just so overwhelmed by all of the information out there on non toxic lifestyles and things to look out for and be aware of. So, with that, what advice could you offer to anyone who may be feeling overwhelmed when embarking on this journey, right? To trying to live as naturally as close to the earth as possible?
I feel like the first step is just simplify. Simplify what you're putting on your body, simplify the foods you're consuming. Don't worry about buying all the extra stuff. Like when you think about our ancestors, they didn't
Mm.
have all the extra stuff, they're just living their lives. So, first, simplify. Get rid of fragrances, get rid of inflammatory seed oils, like the basics. Stop using
Yeah.
single use plastic. Um, all of those little tweaks you can do. And then from there, try and build healthy habits that are attainable for you. And don't feel like you have to do everything perfectly. It's totally okay. Like, if you have an area, I don't know, say painting your nails. Like, I see women do that. They're like, I'm crunchy, but I'm not going to give that up. It's like,
Yep.
well, cool, do your best. If that
Right.
brings you that much joy, then do it. Personally, I'm not going to, but that was easy for me to give up. Like, I'm a pretty
Yeah.
lazy
Yeah.
self-care person. I never get a haircut, never dye my hair. Like,
Yeah.
all
I
the
love it.
crunchy things are super easy for me because I'm like, oh, cool. That means I don't have to do anything.
Less
Great.
maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I love that. It's truly about that though, simplicity. And I feel like again, like people embarking in the wellness space or on their wellness journey, it's like, oh, have to do all these things, have to dedicate, 2 hours of a morning routine to do my cold plunge and my 30 minutes of meditation and take, 20 different supplements. But it's really
Mm-hmm.
not, right? It's just about narrowing down like three
Mm-hmm.
key focus areas.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. And also too, I mean, like there are natural remedies for almost everything. And I think you said you're part of a Crunchy Mom Facebook group. But what are some of your favorite resources, Emily, that you like learned? I mean, we were talking about being self-taught. Like, where have you gone to like learn everything that you've learned over the past decade?
Sure. I love books. See, I prefer a physical book over any kind of content creator
Yeah.
because anybody can throw up a video and be like, this is true. And I feel like if you go get a book, at least there were like streams of editing, most
Yep.
likely, that it had to
And
go through.
sources.
I'm not saying like everything out there is totally true and should be followed, but it feels like it's a little more credible to get it from a real book. So I have
Yeah.
some like old 90s natural medicine books that I
I
love
love
flipping
that.
through. They have like so many good recipes, good advice. I'm trying to think of my favorite. It's like uh Healthier Child A to Z. I think that's what it's called. And it actually lists like the natural remedy and then like the allopathic
Ooh,
medicine that would
that
be
sounds
used.
amazing.
Yeah, so you can kind of line it up and see everything. And it gives like every single health issue that you could ever think of that you might encounter with your kids. And I love that book
I
so
love that.
much. Um,
Have you heard of
Also,
sorry, no, this
no, go
reminds
ahead.
me. There's this one book by Dr. Robert Mendelsohn. I think it's called How to Raise a Healthy Child in Spite of Your Doctor. Have you read
I
that?
have heard that. I think I might have it on my shelf. I can't guarantee that I've read it. I've probably flipped through it.
You would love it. You would
Yeah,
love
I
it.
should get that.
Yeah. Sorry, I
Yeah, I
interrupted you.
did.
You were
No,
thinking of
I
another
just
book.
love it. I love books like that. There's a book called Simply Living Well that was like one of
Okay.
my first crunchy books. She's more onto like the zero waste train, but there's a lot of crossover. See, like that's a sect of crunchy. Or in my
Yeah.
book, I talk about how like you're on the spectrum of
The
crunchy.
spectrum.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she may not be like, I don't know, Julia Watkins is the author. I don't really know where she lands on like wearing natural fibers and stuff like that, or like the health and wellness, but she's zero waste. And because of that, you have to make your own remedies and stuff because you're not buying plastic bottles of
Right.
whatever they sell at the pharmacy.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from her book. Yeah, I just love checking out books, reading what other people have to say, hearing real stories about someone in a situation, not
Yeah.
just factual, like a list of what you should do. I want to hear how it changed their life and how
100%.
they used it. Yeah.
I love that. I'm the same way. That's why I love the community, like the homeopathic community. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a train that I jumped on, I want to say 3 years ago. A coworker was like, my wife's taking this course. Like, I really think you would be interested in it. It was one of Joette Calabrese's courses. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she has yeah, she has like all these awesome courses on like beginners, like intro to homeopathy.
Yeah.
And I just was floored by sitting in those like monthly meetings with a group of, I don't know, 40 or so women just recounting stories of how they used arnica and apis
Mhm.
to avoid bringing their child to the ER after like a bee sting or a traumatic accident. And I didn't really believe it like the first month or so. But then, like,
Mhm.
the more I actually started doing research and, like, again, just hearing these affirmations from these women, I was like, there's actually something here. So you're going to crack up. But I dropped like $300 on homeopathic kits and went home to my family and was like trying to teach them like all of the things to use. So my mom's so cute. And I like typed out like all of these like Word docs of like, this is what you use for this situation. And
Aw.
I put together like protocols for like my dad and my mom. So I mean, my mom's been pretty consistent. My dad, not as much. But point is that, like, that really opened my eyes to that whole community. And again, like, I absolutely love that, like, there's people out there, right, that share similar sentiments as myself. And just because it's not publicized on social media doesn't mean that they don't exist,
I
right? So
know.
finding, like,
I had a
yeah,
similar experience with homeopathy. Like my son was having a hard time sleeping. He had already been sleeping in his own bed, like sleeping well. You know, whenever you're a mom, there are like all these different phases of like, okay, we're co-sleeping and they need this nighttime support. But anyway, he was like 5 and struggling, waking every night, having issues. And I'm like, okay, we're like drinking tart cherry juice. We don't have screen time. He's getting plenty of sunshine in the morning.
yeah,
That's like prompting his later production of melatonin. And, you know, like I'm
yep,
doing
yep,
everything. And I definitely, like, we rub magnesium on his belly and like just
yeah.
everything. I had done it all. And I decided to try boron sleep calm for
I
kids.
have those in my cabinet.
Yeah, and I was like, this is so fake. Like this is not real. This is not going to work at all. I already decided. And the first night that I gave it to him, and I'm telling you, we're talking like 6 months every single night, waking with night terrors. And we had like started therapy.
Wow.
And I gave him that sleep calm
He was out.
and he slept through the night the first
Wow.
time. And I was like, what? What? This isn't real. This isn't real. But then we kept doing it and it was like a non issue. He didn't like, we dropped out of therapy because it was like he didn't need
Yeah.
that. That wasn't the answer. And
Right.
everything, I don't know, like everything just fell into place. He just needed that. And I still can't, like, I still have a hard time believing it's real, but it totally is. We've used the allergy, we've
Yeah.
used like so many different of their blends, and I really love them. I
I love that.
haven't ventured much into like the singular, you
Mhm.
know, like just knowing. I kind of depend on them to tell me
Yeah.
what to use, but there's just so much out there. It's hard to learn it all.
There's
So
so
right now that's
much.
working for us, but I hear that it's even more effective if you don't use the blends.
Yeah. I if you were like coming over my apartment later, I would just open up my cabinet and show you like I shop from Boron and Helios. I don't know if you've heard of Helios. They're based in the UK, but I like Helios because you could get like these massive bottles. It's just more cost
Mm.
efficient.
Mhm.
But I'll have friends come over and like I'll open my cabinet to like, I don't know, grab salt or something. And like you literally see their eyes like widen when they see like all of these homeopathic remedies. And I'm like, yeah, it's just my homeopathy. They're like, do you take all of that? And I was like, no, you take it like if you're experiencing something. It's not like a supplement. And then I'll
Mhm.
proceed to like educate them on like the basics of homeopathy. But it's or
That's so
homeopathy. I
funny.
always pronounce it. I switch. Is it homeopathy? But then it's like a
So
homeopathic protocol, right?
that's what I say. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I also, when I was reading my book for the audiobook, they're like, yeah, that's not how you say that for so many things. So, like, this whole time, I've been walking around as a crunchy mom saying PFAs instead of PFAs.
Yeah. I did
Why isn't
too.
it
So don't feel badly.
PFAs?
I know.
So, like, I go to read my book. I've even heard other people say PFAS, and I'm like, that's not how you say it.
Yeah.
Like, why are they reading it like that? Um,
Just own it. Just create it how you think it should sound. That's the
Yeah.
key.
So definitely don't ask me for pronunciation. But, I always say people who are using words but pronouncing them wrong is usually a sign that they're reading, that they're readers because
Yeah,
they read it somewhere and learned it and maybe just didn't know how to say it correctly. So no
exactly. I
shame.
love it.
No shame.
Wait, I'm so excited. So you have an audio version too coming out. Oh my gosh, this is even
Yes.
better.
It is. I am so excited about the audiobook. Like it was so fun. And I feel like you get more of my tone and more of the jokes. Some
Yeah.
of it, like I went on a lady's podcast and she was so sweet. She read my book. She loved my book. But she read me an excerpt and she was like, this just really spoke to me. I was like, that is not at all how I meant
How you
that.
intended it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But good. I'm glad that you loved it. That's wonderful. But whenever you listen to an audiobook, you kind of get it. You
Yeah.
kind of hear how I mean it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there were definitely like really funny points in that book. Like I was sitting at a coffee shop nearby as I was reading through the PDF, and I just like had points where I would just laugh out loud because I was like, this
Oh,
is
I'm so
literally so
glad.
true. But one thing I really did love, Emily, that you mentioned is that like as you've continued in your journey, you said try your best to be unoffendable and also try not to offend. And that it's better to meet people where they are and try to understand where they're coming from, whether you're the one giving the toxic hand soap or the one receiving it. And that is so spot on. And one of the topic areas that I really wanted to cover with you, because when I meet new friends, right, or observe something that someone's doing in their routine that like may not be the healthiest thing for them, but they genuinely do not know any better, I always like pause and I say like, like should I say something or should I not? So how do you go about educating people without offending them?
I sort of have a hard and fast rule not to say something unless I'm asked.
Yeah.
So then if they ask me about one area, then I could kind of like work it into the conversation somehow. And I think it's really helpful to not say, like, I noticed you drinking out of a plastic water bottle. It's like you can take your knowledge and say, "Hey, did you know this about drinking out of a plastic water bottle?" You don't like
Yeah.
direct it at their behavior. Don't use you language. Um, but I definitely think it's better to preserve your relationships. Don't feel like you have to educate. It's not really your job
Right.
to convert people to living a healthier lifestyle. I mean,
Right.
if you are really concerned about someone you love, like your spouse, then I would say they're going to be more open and receptive to whatever you have to say. But just like a buddy,
Yeah.
I think it's probably best just not to say anything. And then if they're curious, they can ask you. And if you're living a certain way and they can see a noticeable difference, then that opens the door for conversations.
Yeah. I love that. Does that approach differ if you're speaking to someone in your family, like your broader family too, versus a friend? Or is it the same? And I like
Hmm.
the thing that comes to mind is your Thanksgiving reel when you were like, and the turkey, like cooking it in plastic. Like, just kidding. I'll make the whole meal. I'll bring
Yeah.
everything. But how does that approach differ, if at all?
Yeah. I wouldn't say much. I guess it depends on how close you are. How much
Yeah.
are you talking to them? I've like a couple of my aunts, I feel like I could, but I also have random cousins that I would never reach out and say anything to them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it is really tricky. And it's kind of, I'm in a funny position because now I'm this comedy content creator. So a lot of people didn't even know that I was crunchy before they saw my videos. And when we started making videos, we didn't tell anybody. We just started putting them up and the account grew on its own. We did not tell anyone.
Wow.
And so people started seeing my videos that have known me for a long time and they're like, wait, do you really think that way? I'm like, sort of. I mean, I'm not judgmental. I'm not
Yeah.
judgmental. That's not me. You
This is
know
me.
me. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely don't use canola oil if that's what you're
Yeah.
asking.
That's
So,
so funny. I love
yeah.
that. I think isn't it just it's funny how God works because to your point earlier, like you and Jason had no plan or intent, right, of like growing to be this big, and you just kind of put together, what did you say, like 12 videos just for kicks, and then it just kind of took off. So
Yeah,
I, yeah,
we just started posting every single day, and we didn't expect that it would go anywhere, but we had this goal to post a video every day for a year. And yeah, the Lord definitely has blessed us. We are so grateful to get to be self-employed, work for ourselves. Jason gets to work from home. We get to homeschool our boys together. Like,
amazing.
it is a total dream what we've been given. So we definitely want to steward it well. But it's also kind of scary because, like, wait, the internet could crash tomorrow, and we've put
I
like all
know.
our eggs in this social media basket. So
I
yeah.
understand. Well, Emily, I mean, now you have a book, so like,
Yeah, true.
you're kind of offsetting that.
We'll see.
um, but we'll see. No, I have full confidence that you'll find multiple ways to get your message out there. But you also had a really funny reel. I'm just like recalling all these videos I watched in the past week where someone was like sitting across from you saying, "Can you tell us the message of your book?" or something to that effect. And you were like, "We're all going to die," which of course is true, right? But I guess my question is, how do you strive, and I struggle with this too, right? To live a crunchy life and mitigate the harms from living in this toxic world while also not making yourself crazy with stress, right? Because we could become literally like paranoid about stepping out, in nature because of the air quality, or not wanting to go out to a coffee shop because the coffee's not organic. So like, how do you find balance?
It has come from years of feeling panic and anxiety. I allowed anxiety to consume me, and I know how it feels to live in fear, and it is not fun. It is not a life I want to live. Like, I'd rather abandon the whole crunchy thing altogether if I couldn't figure out the balance thing. I
Yeah.
just decided that the stress that I was putting on myself, the worry and anxiety was far more damaging than non organic coffee.
Yep.
So just live the best you can. And I say in my book, I talk about how when we go out to eat and things like that, of course I think about the food. Like, how am I not going to think about it? But I don't allow it to scare me. My body is efficient at getting rid of the bad stuff. Like, I take
Yeah.
care of my body every single day so that when I have a moment where I eat something that isn't the best for me, like, I don't have to stress about it. It's not a big deal. Sometimes it doesn't make me feel great. That's true. But anywhere you go, there are healthier choices that you can make.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just not worth it to become scared. That's not how we're meant to live.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that too. And there's also all these studies too that show like if your body is in a stressed state when you're eating a meal, like you actually won't extract the nutritional contents or value of the food you're eating because your body's in that fight or flight state. And I
Mm,
feel like that's why we're all kind of walking around with dysregulated nervous systems, especially a lot of us in the health space, because we do know so much. And
hmm
not to say that ignorance is bliss, but I think sometimes like there's a healthy balance, right? Like it's good to be aware and cautious, but if it makes you fearful of going out to dinner with a friend, right, then that's not
hmm
necessarily the healthiest because then you're also isolating yourself. And in an age
hmm
where social connection is so needed, we don't necessarily need another fan to fuel the fire, I guess you could
Yeah,
say in that
I
regard.
know.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, loneliness is on the rise, and there are so many things keeping us from real human connection, like our phones and streaming services, whatever we want. We can be so pacified in the walls of our home and totally comfortable. But then when you step back from that, like, it's not real. You're not
Mhm.
having real experiences, real connection, real conversations. And I always think about, like, when I'm on my deathbed, am I going to look back at my life and be pleased with how I've lived it? And I think that, I mean, I know a lot of people do that, but I feel like that is so important to do whenever you choose whether you're going to hold so tightly to your convictions or if you're
Mhm.
going to be a little loose with them.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I love that. And I've noticed too, even for myself, like it really comes down to intentionality. That's a word, right? Being more
Mhm.
intentional. And
Mhm.
I feel like I mean, the more your following grows, right? Like on your social media platforms, I think the easier it is to become more immersed in that world. That isn't necessarily a real world, right? And then you
Mhm.
start to kind of like blur the lines between who are my friends, right? My Instagram friends than my real friends, and what's more
Mhm.
important. So I kind of had an awakening, so to speak, a few months ago where I was like, I need to be more intentional about setting up time to actually have conversations, live conversations with my friends. So, like this past Saturday, I hosted a little fun movie night at my apartment downstairs. I invited like 15 or so friends just to get
Mhm.
together and watch a movie in person, right? Not just be
Mhm.
watching something and texting. And you really do feel better afterwards just from like 2 hours of connection. So I think that's
Mhm.
something that is really, you know, undermined and underrated when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you.
And one thing too, Emily. So going back to this book and all my notes, I flagged so many different pages because I was like, I have to just screenshot this and send it to my mom. But you have this spectrum in your book that goes from silky to scrunchy to really very crunchy, which I absolutely loved. Can you explain the difference between those for listeners?
Yeah, so silky is kind of the go with the flow, convenient, conventional type of living. Um, in my videos, I do a bit where I wear this t-shirt that says Coke on it. It's the fans have deemed it the Coke mom. And so I would say the Coke mom is definitely silky. She's just living her life, doing whatever, not even concerned about wellness. And then scrunchy is where you're kind of like you buy organic food, but you maybe buy a lot of processed organic food, or you know about the dangers of VOCs and things like that, but you still burn scented candles sometimes when you want to. So, scrunchy is really someone who's pretty well balanced, I would say. Um, but maybe also just not willing to give up some of those conveniences and
Yeah.
luxuries of the silky life. And then really very crunchy, I've already explained. So yeah, it's a fun spectrum. And I say, like, sometimes I'm pretty scrunchy. I don't really think I'm very silky in many areas anymore.
Yeah. I was
But
going to ask you, like, where does Emily
yeah.
fall on the spectrum nowadays?
Well, I mean, I admit in my book that sometimes for nostalgia's sake, we'll go get a custard from Culver's because we just like have this whole past with their custard. It's like part of our relationship. It's weird. Um,
I love it.
so like I know that it has corn syrup in it. I have looked up the ingredients and I am appalled. But it's still fun and it's still nostalgic. So that would be pretty silky of me, I guess. And then, sometimes like my mom will give me leftovers or something, and when I'm down at her house, and she'll like put it in a Ziploc bag, and I don't say anything, and I take it. I'm like, who am I?
Does your mom follow you on social?
Yeah, she does. And she's pretty crunchy in some ways, but she's definitely like, I always tell her, she'll be like saying something. I'm like, you're 62. It's too late for you anyway. Like, do whatever you want,
I love that. That's so
So,
funny. Well,
yeah.
she tries.
Yeah. Well, Jason's grandmother is in her 90s, and
Oh
I've
my
gone over
goodness.
there and she's like microwaving styrofoam. And I'm like, you should not be doing that. Like, definitely don't do that. And she's like, are you 90 or am I? I'm like, okay, salty. But I guess you're
I'm like,
right.
that's a great content video right there. See, we have all these new ideas.
Yeah.
That's hysterical. One thing too I did want to touch on. So we spoke about simplicity before and how that's really like that's key, right? In being as crunchy as you can. But what are some of your favorite like crunchy things to do for those who have a budget, right? So I feel like this obviously like aligns with the concept of simplicity, but just right now, like what are like 5 or 6 things that people out there right now, they're on a budget, they want to be crunchy, what can they do? What substitutes can they make in their lifestyle?
Like, so you're saying like free or cheap things?
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely open your windows, let fresh air in your house. Air quality is a huge thing that you should be focusing on. So let the fresh air in. Vacuum regularly. That's another way to improve your air quality. Get rid of plastic. I know I just said I accept Ziploc bags. I promise it's very rare. And I promise I wash them and then put something in it and give it back. But get rid of single-use plastic. Like, stop using grocery bags at the store. Take your own grocery bags. Stop using those produce bags. Stop storing your food in plastic. It is not that expensive. You can get glass containers for like $20 and use those to store your leftovers. Start meal planning. How can you fuel your body with healthy food if you're not prepared? You know,
Yep.
like it is so hard if you don't have a plan. It is so much more tempting to reach for something easy and convenient and quick when you don't have a plan. So, meal plan, one of my favorite things to do is I cook my breakfast at night so that it's easy for me
Smart.
to just heat it up, like, and I know I'm having a wholesome, good breakfast. Like frittatas are amazing to do that with.
Yeah.
And then you start your day off right. And then for lunches, I always eat leftovers from my dinner the night before. So, like, it just makes the
Smart.
day go so much
Flow.
more smoothly. And I
Yeah.
know that I'm eating well and I don't ever have to stress about that aspect. So, definitely meal plan. Um, get shoes that fit your foot shape. I'm like so on a kick of foot health. I know it's super trendy, but people are getting messed up by wearing the wrong shoes. And it's not that
Yeah.
hard to just choose a shoe that has a wide toe box, you know?
Have
Like
you
it,
tried Yeah, have you tried the barefoot shoes?
yeah, yeah. I've tried several different brands for
Yeah,
sure.
I just got a pair of Palooza and I'm like so excited to try them because I have like I'm new to all of this and I hear so many wonderful things, but yeah,
Hmm.
that's spot on.
Yeah, if you look at old people's feet and you see how they're like turned in and then they have a hard
Yeah.
time walking because they've been cramming their foot into the wrong shaped shoe their whole life. Like, why would you want to do that? You
Yeah.
can prevent bunions. It is
Yep.
preventable. So definitely just get a wide toe box shoe. I prefer the like super minimalist barefoot type shoe for sure for like healthy foot movement. And even going barefoot. If you're a stay-at-home mom, you don't have to buy expensive shoes. You can just step outside barefoot, you know, like
Yep.
whatever you're doing, do it barefoot.
Yeah, exactly. To that point too, can you educate listeners on the benefits of grounding?
Sure. It is so good for you. Connecting with the earth um, improves circulation, decreases inflammation. It helps you sleep better, uh, increases heart rate variability. Gosh, there are just so many
So
benefits
many.
to grounding.
Yeah.
Yes, it's like if you look it up, it just like goes on and on and on. Even expedited wound healing, which
Mhm.
sounds crazy, but just like all of these amazing benefits, it's like, why aren't we connecting with the earth?
Yeah.
Why? And people message me pretty regularly asking my opinion on grounding sheets, which I've never used them. I'm sure they're great, but it's like,
Yeah.
why don't you just go outside?
Just go
Just
outside. Yeah,
yeah, just go outside.
exactly.
You don't have to buy those really expensive sheets. You
Yep.
just spend some time barefoot.
Yep. Exactly. Isn't that funny? Like we feel the need to have to like create ways to like even create another separation between us and nature to like still kind of reap the benefits, but like without actually going to like
Yeah.
the main source.
I
It's
know.
so funny.
It's
You're
I
gonna
was Oh, go
You
ahead.
go ahead.
I was just hanging out with Jenny Urich, the creator of A Thousand Hours Outside. I love her so much. I love her movement. She's amazing. She has so many amazing books out there. But she gets all these messages about, does this count as time outside? Does this count? My kids are in the driveway, but they're in cardboard boxes. Does that count? Like, why do we have to complicate everything? If you're outside, you're
Oh my
outside. You
gosh.
know, like, just
Yeah.
be outside. You don't, if I'm in the garage, but the doors are open, does that count? Which it is kind of funny to like think about, but just go outside.
The questions people ask, so funny. So while I don't actually like walk barefoot, so I'm in Greenville, South Carolina. I live in an apartment building. When I go home, I'll try to walk barefoot, but here I pretty much opt to either wear like grounding sneakers when I go outside, which I think
Mm-hmm.
are really cool, but I will always like touch a tree. So like I literally, like, you can call me a tree hugger. And it's so funny because I was walking with my mom when she came to visit me a few weeks ago, and we'd just be walking, and like people would be, like just walking around us, and I would go up to a tree and just like put both of my hands on it and just like stay there. I'm like, Mom, come here, come ground with me. And she would like
Yeah.
look around to like see if anyone was watching, and then like come up and touch the tree. I'm like, Mom, like, what do you care? And I've had times where people literally have come up and like been like, what are you doing? And then I'll tell them about grounding and the benefits, and they're like so interested. They're like, wow, like really, just from touching nature? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And it just goes to show you super simple practices that people just aren't aware of. And I think, like, to some point, Emily, like, we are, or those of us who may not like know about these practices are aware of them, in the sense of like when you go on a hike, you just feel different, right, after being
Mm-hmm.
outside in nature all day, but they
Mm-hmm.
can't quite pinpoint why. So it's just a matter of explaining, this is why, because you are
Yeah.
coming in contact with nature, you are grounding, you are earthing. So I like being the educational, I guess, like, channel for those
Yeah.
folks.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you're right. It is intuitive. Like we know what
Exactly.
is good for us. When you sit on your phone for 3 hours scrolling, you can feel it. Like it doesn't feel good to walk away from that. And it's
Yeah,
because our bodies know that it's not good for us. Totally.
exactly.
You're so right.
Yeah. And I am curious, Emily, what are like two or three things that you are absolutely like, we have to have this in our home? So you spoke about air quality before. Do you even have, like, do you use an air filter in your home, or do you live in
I
an
do. I
area
have an
where,
air
yeah.
doctor. I have an air
Me
doctor,
too.
but it feels kind of pointless because we're like in the country. Our air quality, it's almost never on. The air doctor, like it's like a very low, ooh, but it
Yeah,
never like kicks up unless I'm cooking.
same.
So yeah, I feel like our air quality is pretty great. Um, what else?
What about water
Definitely.
filters?
Yes, water filters. We have a reverse osmosis. I wish we were on well water, but our house wasn't on didn't have a well,
Oh,
and that costs like mega money to
really?
dig. So, yeah, it's so expensive to dig a well. So, we've
Ugh.
just been using a reverse osmosis that remineralizes, and then I add real salt to my water.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's not the perfect solution, but I feel better about it than tap water.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah,
I
and oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I had a conversation. I'll send you the episode. I want to say a month or so ago with Jen and Rusty Stout. They created this company called Healthier Homes, and
Mhm.
they basically just create like non-toxic homes. Like they build non-toxic homes for people, like everything from the ground up. And I read their book, and to the point about information overload, like just became hyper aware of everything around me, and even like my apartment building. I was like, if it's a relatively new building, but like, has everything had time to off gas? And, what was the soil quality that it was built on? And was there mold when they
Mhm.
were building it if it rained? So, like, all these like rat holes that I went down. But how did you, like, when you bought your home too, like, how did you, I guess, make it like as healthy as possible, right? Like, did you do a mold test? Like, did you do any other like due diligence items like before purchasing it? Or did you, like, because I know you guys have moved so many times.
Mhm.
So is that ever like in your mind?
It has been in my mind, and we even made some choices in our home for budgetary restraints. Like we have vinyl plank floors. It drives me crazy. I'm like, I am like touching plastic. I'm touching plastic and I hate it. Like I don't even wear plastic clothing. I've given up all
Yeah.
polyester and all of
Yeah.
that. But my floors are plastic, but it's what we had to do because it's what we could afford. We could not
Yeah.
afford bamboo or wood, which I mean, there are so many like finishes on all that it's
So
all
many.
technically toxic. Like all of it
Exactly.
is bad.
Yep.
But like we did try to make like we got low VOC paint and we got carpets that weren't treated with PFAS or flame retardants.
Yeah.
There are little things like that you can do. And even like we don't have all organic beds right now. I am looking at purchasing some mattresses, but I use cotton sheets, and natural
Yeah.
fiber bedding. So there are ways to build your home and make it as crunchy as you can on whatever
Yep.
budget.
I love that.
Definitely would recommend a mold test for people. I but you can also see signs of mold, like if there's previous water damage or the floor is swelling somewhere or there's like a
Yeah.
wave in the wall. Like there are little clues. But we haven't had any issues, so fingers
That's good.
crossed there.
You're good.
But
Yeah, it's about controlling what you can control, right? I feel
mhm.
like that's like the consistent theme with everything, and then just
Mhm.
making the healthy choices where you can.
Yeah.
So I
I
love
just
that.
lay down wool rugs so that I can walk on wool
Ooh,
instead.
I love it. You're gonna laugh too. My sister came a couple weeks ago to visit, and she was on this kick of just throwing out everything that was not like cotton or wool or good materials in her closet. So she came and went through my closet, and we threw out Emily's like a solid like two full trash bags of clothes that were just either
Wow.
acrylic or polyester or things I still had from college that I didn't even like really pay attention to. I just assumed it was cotton. But it's
Mhm.
crazy, like the materials that, you know, clothes are made with today, and like your skin's
Mhm.
your body's largest organ, and people don't really think of that. So
Yeah,
I have a post
fibers
coming up on
break
that.
down. So, like, that
Yeah.
is rubbing off onto you. And even like in the water, when you wash that stuff, it's shedding microplastics and adding
Yeah.
to the issue with plastics in the waterways and
Yeah.
all of that. So,
Exactly.
it's just you're not aware of the impact that you're making until your eyes are open to it. Then you're like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, what have I been
Yeah.
doing?
And it's like once your eyes are open, like you can't go back,
Yeah.
like you really
Mm-hmm.
can't.
I
But
know.
Emily, I absolutely love your book. I'm super excited for listeners to also pick it up. I have a hard copy coming in too because I love to, similar to you, like circle and write notes and take things. But this was so much fun. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to share this with listeners. And where can they find you and also get a copy of your book?
Sure. So my platform is called Really Very Crunchy, and conveniently, my book is called Really Very Crunchy. So I'm
Amazing.
on, yeah, that was a really good idea on my publisher's part. I'm on all the social medias: Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat. Is that all of them?
Wow. All of
Um,
them.
so all of them, you can find me there. And then as far as my book, anywhere books are sold online. So Books a Million, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Christian Book, everywhere you can
I
buy
love
books
that.
online. I will be in some physical stores as well. So, yeah.
Exciting. And what is the most important thing that you hope readers take away from your book? So much, but if you could
See,
pick
yeah, I
one.
know. It's so hard. Um, hmm. This is probably not what I would have even said yesterday, but choose humility in all you do. Be humble, because it can be so tempting to become like this holier than thou. I mean, the subtitle to my book is A Beginner's Guide to Removing Toxins from Your Life Without Adding Them to Your Personality, because it can be so tricky not to add them to your personality, even
Yeah.
on accident.
Yeah.
So just approach everyone with the most generous outlook that you can. Every interaction, try to be positive and humble and loving. Always
I
love.
love that.
So, yeah.
I love that. Well, Emily, I am such a big fan of you and your work. I'm super grateful to have connected with you. My very last question, though, for you is what does being well and strong mean to you?
This is where I should have listened to other people's answers.
No, I like it. I like it on the fly because then you don't have time to think about it. It's more
Yeah.
authentic.
Well and strong. Intentionality, like being intentional about making the best choice for you and your health. And if you're doing the best you can, then I think you will be well and strong.
I love that. Beautiful. Well, Emily, I'm so excited for you and for your book launch. Please let me know whatever I can do to help support. But yeah, I'm really excited to share this with listeners, and I hope to have you on again soon.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me. This was fun.